And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What's going on, everyone? This is RBLR Bucs podcast, where we got all your takes, all your off-season talk going on this off-season. I'm Musab, one of your co-hosts tonight, and yes, the draft is over, and some things have begun already, like rookie camp. But we are about to dig in. There's still a lot to discuss, and we got some things going on. It's not just all about the draft picks. We got some undrafted free agent talk going on, but we're also gonna look at the NFC South, from a bigger picture, and just see how the rest of our opponents are looking after the draft. But you already know the drill. If you enjoy what you hear, please do come back again. We really do appreciate y'all being with us, whether it's your first time or last time, or not last time, or your 10th time. Hopefully not your last time. But again, shout out to everyone listening. Shout out to the rest of our RBLR team holding it down, from our Sun FC, Lightning, from our Rays, everyone. So, but this show is not a one-man show. It never is. And as always, I got the iconic trio, or I guess iconic duo, really. So that being said, to my right, Mr. Zach Blaine, welcome back, man. What's the good word?
Oh, a whole lot of just the same, really. We haven't had any crazy news yet, so I'm just waiting on that outside of some division news, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like my boss says, sometimes no news is good news.
So, exactly.
There's that. But the final puzzle piece of this iconic trio, we got Mr. Carter Brantley in the house. Carter, how goes it, man?
Oh, it goes. Definitely excited to talk some more Bucs football. Like Zach said, not a whole lot of news, but it is Rob Gronkowski's birthday, so big news there. But like you said, there's a little bit of some fun divisional news that we'll get into. But excited to talk about some undrafted free agents, because honestly, I'm pretty excited about how the Bucs have done things. After the draft commenced, they've brought in some pretty talented players outside of their initial first 6 players. So I'm excited to talk about that, and then we can talk about the rest of the division and their draft classes as well, like Musab said, because they had some interesting moves, some good, some not so good, some that we'll agree with, some that we won't. But we'll get to all that. Before we do, love for y'all that listening to give us a like or subscribe if you like what you hear, because we'll be coming out with stuff for the rest of the off season and then the regular season too. Once a week we'll be here. So definitely give us a like or subscribe. You can also give us a follow at RBLR Bucs or at RBLR Sports. We've got some amazing content coming across all of our channels, so definitely check it out. But we'll start with the division news that came out this week. Derek Carr retiring. A bit of a shocker for me. I don't know about y'all. I thought he was going to stick it out because kind of a lot of money was left on the table for him, but he decided to call it quits. I think he did the Saints quite a big favor by doing so. I think they saved him, or he saved them, quite a bit of money in the salary cap. So I thought that was a really interesting development, and it leaves the Saints kind of, there was already a question as to whether or not he would be able to play this season anyways. He had a big shoulder thing, and I guess instead of spending a whole year on IR, Derek Carr decided to just hang him up. So what are y'all's thoughts on his career? Zach, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts on Derek Carr's career as a quarterback? Kind of a weird one, but what'd you think?
Yeah, it's one of those, you either love him or you hate him. Like he was, I think he's underrated. I think he was a really good quarterback until he came to the Saints. I think he kind of fell off a little bit when he came to the Saints, which I think maybe speaks more to the Saints and not necessarily Derek Carr himself. It's a weird one. Like, there's not better than his brother, I guess. Like, he didn't do too much to like, I don't know, I guess game manager is the best way I can think about it. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he wasn't bad. He was a good quarterback.
Right.
I think the craziest part of this all to me was he was doing his church service thing where he called out like ESPN and stuff. He's like, my shoulder, I am injured, but I'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. And like, they're overreacting. And then 3 days later, he retires due to injury. I was just like, what the hell is happening?
That's always how it goes, man. He seems like a an interesting fella. I'll just leave it at that. That's all that needs to be said. But yeah, it was kind of weird. The timing of it was very strange. Like you said, it was very kind of wish-washy, kind of you
Yeah.
didn't really know what to make of it. But it was kind of funny. I read some tweet that was like Derek Carr's either the worst good quarterback of all time or the best bad quarterback ever.
Exactly. Like he's just right in the middle there. Like you don't know if you want to put him in the top 15 or the top 16 or the bottom 16. Either way,
Right.
he's 16 or 17 right there.
Yeah, and he dealt with a lot of injuries in New Orleans, and their offensive line was terrible. But Musab, how about you, man? Any final words to commemorate Derek Carr's NFL career?
Yeah, man, I feel bad for him. I mean, I feel bad for the Saints because they got somewhat of a big shoe to fill, of course. But I got nothing against the guy. I mean, I've always thought that he was like kind of piggybacking off of Zach, pretty solid. I mean, he definitely was not a Hall of Famer or some superstar, but I mean, he wasn't god awful either. I feel like he's faced a lot of resilience, whether that be on the Saints or even with the changes that were happening, even with the Raiders, So overall, I mean, I would probably say, solid guy, definitely someone to be concerned about, if you're facing him. Just because you never know what kind of game he has. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those guys that you're like, oh, he had a bad game. Okay, well, I mean that sucks, but I can totally believe that. You know what I'm saying? Or he has a great game. You're like, of course, not surprised. You know what I'm saying? He was
exactly.
There
really is just no because you're spot on. He was either bad or good. There was never he was one of those quarterbacks that would never necessarily win you a game. But if he was playing bad, he would lose you a game. So it was.
He's the kind of guy that just scrape by the Panthers, and then the Bucs get real hyped. They're like, "Oh man, we're gonna beat the crap out of the Saints," and then he balls out. Yeah, and then we get demolished. Oh yeah.
Man.
Next thing you know, I'm putting "It's a Bucs Life" with the guy with the bag over his head.
Right. I don't know though. It sounds to me like he's a bad quarterback with the way y'all are talking about a guy that won't win you a game, but he'll definitely lose you a game.
No, I'm saying it's the same way I view. Not on the same level. Don't get it twisted, everyone listening. He's not Eli Manning, but it's the same thing. Like I don't think Eli Manning was winning you games, but if he plays bad, he's going to lose you games.
I don't know the way I get what you're saying, but the way that's phrased makes it just.
Yeah, I probably said it wrong. Like now that I'm thinking it through in my head, I'm like, it makes sense. I'm saying he's a trash quarterback. I don't think he was.
No, I feel you though. I do understand where you're coming from, but he was an interesting quarterback, and Musaba, you definitely hit it on the head. Talk about dealing with some adversity. My goodness, in Oakland / Las Vegas, you dealt with the first round pick carousel that good gracious, they spent 3 or 4 first round picks on guys that I don't even think lasted 2 years with the Raiders. Yeah. So it's just, it's impressive. And you know what? He was a second round pick. This was not a, super hyped up top fledged quarterback coming out of college. Second round pick's pretty good, but as far as, draft returns, spending a second round pick on a guy that has a career like Derek Carr, that's pretty good. That's a solid career. And he made a bunch of money. He's doing just fine. So he'll be just fine. But it leaves the Saints in an interesting situation. We'll touch more on that as the offseason progresses, especially because who really knows who their starting quarterback is going to be at this point. Just got to give it some time. But I did want to talk about undrafted free agents. We'll get back to the Bucs, and here we are. Because those are fun. These are a lot of guys that you can kind of dream on. A lot of guys that are fighting to make the team, or at worst a practice squad. That's their goals sort of. And they're the underdogs and all that stuff. So I wanted to start with our favorites. Were there any undrafted free agents that the Bucs brought in that really popped, Musab? Who are your guys that you're rooting for to make this squad?
I'm probably gonna have to go with Desmond Watson.
He's a favorite.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite and all that. But before I go on, I mean, I feel like you have to go Desmond Watson, or I'm probably thinking one of y'all is gonna go Shiloh Sanders. But I do want to give an honorable mention to, I don't even know how to. I hope I pronounce his last name, Chukwuma, only because Yeah, I was just reading an article by Scott Smith from the Buccaneers, and he kind of dived deep a little bit into Chukwuma's background, and he actually moved from Nigeria to Georgia, didn't play at all for or didn't start, and then he finally appeared in the last year at Georgia State, and they did a pretty damn good job. So it'd be cool just to if he could just be a depth piece or something, but I wanted to be a little bit original, I guess. But
yeah, my. Ben Chukwuma, he's 6'6", 310.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He is a
really big guy. Oh yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, shoot, that sounds like a great story. And with guys like that start playing the game late, there's just a lot of upside because you think, oh well, this is where he's at right now. Imagine how good he can be if he actually played the game for a few years. So definitely
no wear and tear on the body or anything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No prior injury history. It's there's a lot of upside there. So I really like that shout out. There's also a guy, Garrett Green, out of West Virginia, former quarterback. Yeah. I mean,
what's all that about? I mean, the guy he did a pretty damn good job at West Virginia. I know this has happened. I think a couple of times, but why does how does this happen?
I think it happens more often than you think.
The
thing is, there's one starting quarterback on every team.
Right. I know.
Maybe 2, maybe 3. So you're looking at 64 quarterback spots where each team has 5 to 7 wide receivers.
Yeah.
There's a lot more opportunity at wide receiver if you're athletic. And I believe he played wide receiver in high school. I believe he went.
Yeah. For sure. No. I'm definitely rooting for him, but it's just hard. I mean, because you already have guys who all they played in college was wide receiver. So.
Right. No, that's a great point. You're competing with, the Mike Evanses of the world, all these really amazing.
Imagine like, working as a vet tech in high school and then going to law school and then coming back and be like, oh, I want to be a veterinarian now.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, might as well, there's more opportunity, like Zach said. Plus, I mean, he was fun in college, but, he wasn't, he was pretty good, but obviously wasn't tearing it up enough to get drafted as a quarterback. So, obviously in his mind, he's thinking, well, I want to stick around. And the Bucs, it's fun to have a guy like that on the team because
that's what happened. I think to Cephas Johnson.
Right. Yeah.
One of our backup wide receivers. I think he played quarterback.
Yeah. Denard Robinson out of Michigan shifted to running back. Terrell Pryor. There was another Ohio State quarterback. I think Braxton Miller did that too.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I think Julian Edelman was a quarterback.
Julian Edelman 100% was,
in college. So there's a lot of, and there's a lot of upside to it too, because then you understand route trees in a different way. You understand the playbook a little bit differently. So there's a lot of upside to it for sure. But you already touched on my personal favorite was Desmond Watson. He's just so big. Like he's just such a massive individual. I think he's going to make the team, honestly. I think defensive line needs some depth, and I think he's really going to make the team. But Zach, how about you, man? You're a big fan of Shiloh, yeah?
Huge fan. I called it out in the draft. I said I think he's going to be.
He did.
I think he's going to be the better Sanders kid in the league. So I'm super high on him, and watching his just from a content standpoint, I absolutely love him being in Tampa.
He knows how to work the camera.
That's what I'm saying. I think he is a stud, and it's going to be fun to watch him develop because there is a lot of unknowns in our safety room. We don't know. Tyke Smith was phenomenal last year as a nickel. We don't know if he's going to be phenomenal at safety. I have high faith in him. Like, I think he's going to be good. But outside of him, who do we have? You know what I mean? We've got Christian Isian. Sorry, 5'9" is not my favorite height back there at safety. So, yeah, I think he's got a legitimate shot at making the team if he can stay healthy and he plays like he can. I think we've got a steal there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really solid too, which brings us to our sort of next question. Who's the most likely to make the team? I'm with you. I think Shiloh Sanders is a really big one just because of those reasons that you just mentioned. The safety room is kind of yuck. It's kind of rough. There's not a whole lot going on there. I was a bit surprised that they didn't address it in the more, in the actual draft, that they didn't select a position there. But they drafted 2 corners, so it's all good. They addressed the secondary, yada yada yada. But Shiloh's got a really good chance to make the team. But are there any other guys that sort of stood out to you as guys that not necessarily your favorite, but maybe because of what position they play or anything like that? Oh man, they've got a really good shot. Musab, I'll start with you, man. Who's a guy that you think could really make some noise and make this Bucs roster?
I don't know how much noise he'll be making because of who he's going to be behind, but I mean, I feel like, it's always good to have some depth even on the offensive line. And I mean, if not Shiloh, because I mean, I was just going to, piggyback off of you and,
sure,
yap all about Shiloh because I think, we definitely need a guy like him and he's an absolute dog. But I'm going to go Jake Majors from Texas.
Yeah.
He had a great career at Texas. And I feel like, if he's able to make it, I feel like he can definitely be a vital piece, to our offensive line, of course.
Because they don't have a backup center right now. Like Haynes.
Nope.
And that's not necessarily a position you want to rely on a swing man for.
Exactly.
Obviously versatility is nice, but like Suo Opeta and a lot of the other guys that they have on that interior offensive line, they're definitely guards. They can shift over in a pinch, of course, because it's it's a transition, but if it comes down to it. And obviously that's not something you want to rely on. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Jake Majors has a really, really good shot in making the team. I was really impressed with him. Like you said, coming out as Texas as a Longhorn, he really held up really well because he was blocking for Quinn Ewers and, not the most mobile of quarterbacks back there, obviously Archie's going to,
and I'm pretty sure he played almost every game. I think
the durability factor
started.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the durability factor was huge. I think we touched on a lot of guys that we thought was most likely to make the team with Shiloh, Watson, and then Jake Majors. But Zach, was there anyone that signed elsewhere that maybe you kind of, darn, I wish the Bucs would have gotten them? I know there were some guys that we were talking about in the draft process that
there was a few. I also want to touch on real quick. I think another guy that could make our squad.
Oh, yes, please.
Bullock, the linebacker out of I want to say Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
I think our linebacker core is okay, but I think it wouldn't hurt to have some young talent in there. So I think he has a shot in there. As far as other guys, touching on D tackle again, Nazir Stackhouse out of Georgia. I talked about him being a late round pick for us. Jared Ivey out of Ole Miss. Shocked that he didn't get drafted.
Yeah, he fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I would have loved to have him. And then, again, touching on O-line because this guy, it's an Oregon State guy. I know I'm awful. Played everywhere on the O-line, played both tackles and both guards. But Joshua Gray out of Oregon State, I would have been an awesome piece. Again, just as depth. I don't think he's going to come in and take anyone's spot, but as just a depth guy, those were 3 big names that I was like, yeah, because we'd already drafted corner. I would have said Kobe Bryant because, honestly – I can't believe he fell out of the draft, but we already drafted 2 of them, so I was like, I'm good there. But those are my big 3.
Yeah, and it's tough with the higher level undrafted free agent guys like a Kobe Bryant. They have their choice of teams. So they look at
they're getting more than just one offer
for sure. So they'll look at the Bucs. I'm sure the Bucs, probably called in on Kobe Bryant. He's a very talented corner, but they probably called in on him and he looked at their roster and said, wow, y'all have like 5 corners already. I'm good. Exactly. So there's not as much of a path to playing or a roster spot at all for him. But some guys that I thought would have been really interesting as well. Jared Ivey, huge one, especially because the Bucs pass rush room is a bit crowded, but it's not with high level guys. So I thought Jared Ivey would have been a really interesting addition, but it's all good. I went with Nick Nash. He's kind of in a similar situation to Kobe Bryant where like the Bucs wide receiver room is already overflowing with talent. Like they don't have enough spots for everyone. So that probably played into it. And then Raheem Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina. I really liked him coming out of college. Really interesting power back that also is incredibly athletic. So I thought that he would have been a really interesting signing, but he went to the Chargers. Nash went to the Cardinals. I don't know if I mentioned that, but Sanders probably took a look at the Bucs running back room and said, nope, I'm good. I'm not going to beat out Sean Tucker. And obviously Bucky and Rashad White are probably mainstays. So yeah, I got why the Bucs did what they did. I was really pleased with this undrafted free agent class. Musab, was there anybody else that we missed that, you thought the Bucs would have been cool signing with, or what were your thoughts?
Oh man, y'all took the words out of my mouth for Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant was actually one of my guys. Just
Yeah,
because, I mean, listen, I get that we already got 2 cornerbacks, but I feel like, I mean, the more the merrier, especially if they're an undrafted free agent. But clearly, the guy had multiple offers. Obviously, that's probably why he didn't join our Buccaneers, or we also have our corners, but that, or even Jabbar Muhammad from Oregon. I feel like that was pretty surprising to see. I thought he might maybe get drafted in the last round or so, but would have been nice, just because I'll take anyone at DB, specifically corners. I mean, I'm a little bit more happy or somewhat relieved with what we've done with our safety room, getting Shiloh Sanders, and we also got another guy from Marshall, JJ.
Oh yeah, I don't know
Forgetting his name. Yeah, so. Yeah, don't worry, Zach. You'll know his name soon. He's gonna make the roster.
I don't think there's a shot that 2 safeties out of the UDFA class make the roster.
This is how a mixtape starts. They have a recording of you. I don't think 2 safeties make it, and then boom, transition to Shiloh and JJ, just absolutely destroying wide receivers.
Yeah, they're going to be starting by week 5.
I'll give you that. That's a solid argument.
No, I'm kind of with you. That would be a tough thing to see, but at the same time, crazier things have happened, and the Bucs safety room is so void of really a whole lot of depth that
it's pretty much all UDFAs anyway.
Right, exactly. I mean, Christian Eisen, UDFA, so you never know.
Think all of them are, except for Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the 2 starters aren't, but yeah, everyone else is.
Yeah, Merriweather, I'm pretty sure was a UDFA. I couldn't even tell you who else plays safety for us, if I'm being honest right now.
No, I'm with you. But if you're looking for a safe option for your wardrobe, a safe addition, not safety, but safe addition, because it could be kind of cool. We're heading into the summer, and we need some tank tops, some t-shirts, stuff like that, stuff to show to your sport for the Tampa Bay sports teams. Definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. We've got a promo code for you as well, since we're in the drolls of the off season. Look at Mr. Tariq. He's repping it.
Yes,
See,
sir.
Look at him.
Yes, sir. Oh.
He's swagging, he's styling, he's profiling. So if you want to look like Musab Tariq, head to shop.rblrsports.com and type in Cannons, Cannons. You get 10% off your entire order. All right, so this second half of the episode, we're going to get into some more fun stuff with the draft. I know we're really milking this draft thing, but hey, it's the NFL offseason. There's not a whole lot else going on, but we're going to be taking a look at the division because these other 3 teams also did some stuff, some weird stuff, some fun stuff, and everything else in between. So we'll start with the Saints, and we're going to give it just a normal grade, not like last week when we were breaking it down with the Bucs picks. That'd be way too complicated for this. But the Saints pick, they had a lot of really fun kind of high upside guys later on in the draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But my favorite pick later on in the draft for them was Devin Neal out of Kansas. I think he could be a really interesting Alvin Kamara replacement. So I gave their overall draft class a B, because obviously everyone's going to pay attention to the Shiler So pick, and I'm sure y'all have some thoughts and opinions on it as well. I didn't really love it. Shador was still there. They also just could have waited because Tyler Show, I don't believe that he's going to be able to lead them to a playoff appearance right away. So why not just wait until next year, get a better draft or get a better draft pick, get a better draft quarterback. I don't know. I wasn't really super stoked about it because it was in the second round. But Zach, I know you're a bit higher on Show than I am. So what were your thoughts on this Saints draft class?
I am. I actually gave them a B+.
Okay.
The only thing keeping it from like an A- to an A is Show's injury history. If he can stay healthy, I know a lot of people play into his age, like he's 25. Keep in mind his rookie contract, he'll still only be 29 to 30 before it's over, and we don't see quarterbacks retiring at 30 years old. So you got probably 2 contracts with him if he's your guy. And if he's not and you guys suck next year, well, then you draft another quarterback. Like, it wasn't a first-round pick. But I think he's actually a solid quarterback. I was very, very, very low on Shedeur Sanders, like the rest of the NFL was apparently. So I think he was the best available quarterback at that point, him or Jalen Milroe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm not even an Alabama quarterback fan. Like, you guys have heard me in the past talk about how much I am a school guy when it comes to certain positions, and Alabama is not a quarterback school, in my opinion. But I was high on him. I thought he was decent. Do I think he takes you to the playoffs year one? No. But do I think he wins you some games year one? Yeah. Like I think he'll outplay Jake Kaner and Spencer Rattler to get the starting spot.
Ooh, okay, I like it. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more in our Saints team preview, but I definitely dig that. I'm not opposed to that. I do think that he outplays both of them as well, but I think that might have more to do with the fact that Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler are.
That's fair. That's fair.
Who they are. But I do feel you. I might be a bit harsh on him, but and I wouldn't have drafted Shadur Sanders in the second round either. But I was a bigger fan of Jalen Milroe than I think a lot of other people. I had Jalen Milroe as the second best quarterback in this draft class.
Oh yeah, see, I had Jackson Dart. I think that we're not talking about the Giants, but I think the Giants made the right call going after Dart. I know a lot of people were against it, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Wow. Okay, you heard it here first. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, they also drafted Kelvin Banks out of Texas with their first round pick, top 10 offensive tackle. I thought it was pretty good. He should be really good, but assuming he stays healthy. He had a little bit of an injury concern at the end of his tenure at Texas. But Wissam, how about you, man? What were your thoughts on this Saints draft class?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm gonna go B-. I mean, I feel like minus the Tyler Show pick. I felt like it was pretty solid. I mean, they got a lot of pieces that they needed. I mean, first with Kelvin Banks, you gotta solidify the offensive line, especially with Trevor Penning not being part of that future.
Right.
You've been getting a defensive tackle. They got Jonas Sanker, who I had my eye on, safety from UVA, and I mean, yeah, I feel like they really kind of filled in some holes that they needed. I mean, even at corner, looking at the running back room as well. So I feel like they did pretty solid, surprisingly. I'm happy that they didn't. Honestly, it didn't matter who they got, whether it was Shadur or, Tyler Show. Would have been interesting to see someone else get picked. But, yeah, I mean, he's not going to make any sort of impact. So that was a little bit stupid. But, well, stupid things happen in the draft.
For sure. Yeah, I thought round 2 was a bit high to try to make a pick like that. I didn't have a round 2 grade on any quarterback outside of Cam Ward going first overall, but other than him, I didn't think any quarterback was deserving of a pick higher than maybe the 3rd round at most.
Wow.
So I'm with you. I thought that the Show pick was a reach as well. But that's just because the Saints are just so far away from, like, they need so much youth infused into this roster. It's such an aging roster that I'm glad that they addressed the defense so much because, good gracious. I mean, they keep running DeMario Davis and Cameron Jordan out there, and, Davis is still a pretty good linebacker, but man, there's only so many years left.
And Cam Jordan is washed.
Yeah, Cam Jordan's pretty rough, but they just have a lot of aging veterans on that defense. They're not getting any younger. They're not getting any less injury prone. So I would have liked for them to have spent that 2nd round pick on a defensive player because they really could have used it. But that's neither here nor there. They're the Saints. So, maybe it's a good thing that they might have potentially wasted.
Do we expect anything else from them?
Right, exactly. But that brings us to the Panthers, which I am really high on their draft class. I think the Panthers could be very competitive this year and surprise a lot of people, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Defense obviously could still use some work, but I was a big fan of their Skorton pick. He's a defensive lineman out of Texas A&M, as well as Princely. Sorry, I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name, but he's an edge rusher out of Ole Miss. Skorton was listed as an edge, but he's probably going to be a bit more versatile, more like the Roberts pick for the Bucs. So I think that he's going to be really fun defensive line piece, especially with Derek Brown getting healthy this year. So I really like that. But obviously the big headliner is T-Mac, their 1st round pick. He's the wide receiver out of Arizona. A lot of people considered him sort of the wide receiver 1 outside of Travis Hunter. And fully agree. He's really, really good. I think him and Bryce Young could be a really fantastic dynamic duo. And they drafted Jimmy Horn. Go Bulls. He's former USF guy. They also addressed the defense with a couple of picks as well. They drafted Etienne in the middle. I don't know, Zach, you might disagree.
That was a little weird.
Yeah, because they already have a crowded running back room. They just extended
Chuba Hubbard, Rika Dowdle.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys there, and only one football to hand off. So Zach, I'll let you combat with that, but also give us your thoughts on the overall Panthers class too.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him an A. One of my favorite drafts altogether. I think T-Mac is going to be the best receiver out of this class. I think that all around they made good, solid picks at every position that they had. Like, I didn't see one pick from them that I was like, ooh, what? And I think they filled a lot of holes that people were questioning last season. So I think that's a plus. And then as far as the ETN draft pick, like a week ago, they put Jonathan Brooks on the PUP list. He won't play at all this year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Based off of an injury on his ACL. He tore his ACL last season, and it's the second time he's torn that same ACL.
Yeah.
So now you got to look at it like, all right, he's not playing all season. This is the second time he's torn that ACL in 2 years. What are the odds that he's ever fully healthy again?
Man, and that's a second round pick down the draft.
Yeah, and then it shot. They took a risk, and it kind of bombed on him, considering he played 2 games last year and won't play any this year. So by the third year of his 4-year contract, he's going to have 2 games played.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So you draft a running back. It wasn't an early draft pick. You drafted who at Georgia was a solid running back. You draft him to kind of he's not going to be your go-to guy. He's not going to be first. You got Chuba Hubbard, but a solid change of pace back in ETN. I don't think Rico Dowdle is going to make much difference in Carolina, if I'm being honest. So I wasn't even looking at him. I'm thinking it's going to be Hubbard and ETN that get the lion's share of those carries. So I personally love the pick. If it works out, if it doesn't work out, then it's a mid-round pick that you wasted on a running back.
That's true. That's a very good point. It is, it's definitely not like the worst thing they could have done. It's
yeah. And then I know for all of us, like when the draft happened, in my mind, I'm like, you got Jonathan Brooks, you got Hubbard, like you're set. They probably knew.
Right, they knew he was done. Yeah.
They knew that he was done for the season before they actually put him on the PUP list. So for them, the pick is like, all right, well, we got our guy to replace him for now. And for us, we're all like, what the hell is happening here? And kind of behind the scenes, you're like, oh shit, they actually had a game plan going, which is why it's an A for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think A-A. There's the difference between that is negligible. I'm with you. It was a really good draft class. If you're going to nitpick a mid-round running back pick, then you're losing the forest.
You're doing too much. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But Musab, how about you, man? What were your thoughts on this Panthers draft class? Are you as high as Zach, or maybe you're a bit pump the brakes type of thing?
No, I'm not pump the brakes. I'm pretty impressed by what they did. I mean, I'm going to give them an A, even minus the ETN pick. I wasn't, I thought that was kind of weird. But I'll tell you this. I mean, when was the last time you remember a team hitting on every single one of their picks? You know what I'm saying? So, I genuinely believe that a lot of, if not all the guys minus ETN, got a bright future ahead of them. I mean, seriously. T-Mac, Nick Scorton, Princely. I'm going to try to say his name, Uman Milian.
Umam and Lay, I think.
Uman and Lay. Yeah, I mean, they got Lathan Ransom, who I had my eye on from Ohio State. Shout out Jimmy Horn. So they definitely filled in holes as well, like the Saints did. But I really like what they did on the defense, seriously.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been focusing on, get Bryce Young some help, get Bryce Young some help, and rightfully so. But I think they did a great job of bolstering the offensive line. I think that's in a good place. And they went and drafted a wide receiver 1 for him, which cool, that sounds great. And then the rest of the draft, defense, which is absolutely what they needed to do because my goodness, outside of Derek Brown and Jimmy Horn, right? Or wait,
JC Horn.
JC Horn. Thank you.
Horn. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was blanking on that name. Zach Blaine to the rescue. But outside of those two guys, their talent is pretty middling on the defensive side of the ball. There's not a whole lot there for them to write home about. So I'm pretty high on this draft class as well. A's all around, A's all around. But now we get to the Falcons. That's how we're going to round out the episode, kind of ending on a bit of a sour note. But I'll kick things off. I'll kick the Falcon bashing off. I gave it a C-. I thought that this was a very weird draft for them, giving up a first round pick for next year to get back into the first round at the very end. Well, not the very end, but basically at the very end, to get with the Rams pick to draft another edge rusher. It's just, you're already coming from a net loss from that perspective, because the likelihood of the Falcons picking at that spot or later next season, very slim. I would be very surprised to see them picking, I believe it was 27th or 26th. Either way, I don't see the Falcons picking behind that. So automatically, right off the bat, it's a loss. It's just a net loss in terms of draft value. And then they don't have a first-round pick next year, so it's just brutal stuff. But the thing is, I do really like the two players that they drafted, Jalen Walker and Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. They're both really good. But yeah, I don't know. That was enough to tank the value for me. They also went back-to-back safeties, which I thought was kind of weird, with Xavier Watts and Billy Bauman Jr., both guys that I like. But, the Falcons' needs were the interior defensive line and the interior linebacker position, especially with Grady Jarrett leaving. I loved double dipping on edge, but not so much on the safety position. I thought that was kind of weird, especially because they just have so many other needs across the board on that defense, especially in that front seven. So I was a bit confused by this draft class. So I don't know. That's just me, though. Musab, how about you, man? Maybe you're a little bit higher. Maybe you're coming to the Falcons' rescue here with their draft class. What were your thoughts on this?
No, I'm not coming for no rescue at all, man. I'm grabbing that nest and throwing it 500 miles across the world. But no, I'm gonna go B. I have to say, first of all, to do what they did in the round one, definitely super risky. It sort of can be understandable because of the two guys that they got, but still, it's just odd, and it's really gonna bite them in the ass next year. But going safeties back to back with Xavier Watts and Billy Bauman, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, they're two absolute studs, but again, they got bigger things to focus on. And then you finish off with an offensive tackle in round 7. So with all due respect, I mean, I don't know how much of an impact, someone like that guy is going to make. So now when you're thinking about it, you got 2 edges, 2 safeties, you sacrificed your, next year's round 1, and you got a round 7 offensive tackle who may or may not contribute. It's kind of weird. I'll give him the B just because of, I got to say, I love Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. That's why I'm going to give him the B, but otherwise very weird. And I guess I don't want to say I'm that surprised, but I don't know. It's the Falcons.
It is the Falcons. Falcons are going to Falcon. But I guess a precondition to my own grade, because you made some good points like Pierce Jr. and Walker, really solid picks. So I guess I should precondition mine to where I would give them a B just based on their draft. But you have to think about what they did to make those choices.
Right.
What they gave up in the future is how I was approaching it. But that's if both of them turn out to be studs, I totally understood going edge twice, because they did really need that. I thought that was a very intelligent thing to do. I just don't know that it was worth giving up a future first-round pick to do so. So I don't know. I was kind of weirded out by it, but I was also weirded out by the Michael Penix Jr. pick. So, it's the Falcons. They're going to do some weird stuff. But Mr. Blaine, finish this out. What did you think of this Falcons draft class?
Oh, okay. I don't care about next year's draft.
Okay, fair enough.
I am very high on both their first round guys. I think they're both going to be very good. I think Jalen Walker is a guy that can transition more into an actual linebacker role as opposed to a D end. So with that being said, I do believe that trading back into the first, what it really did and why I love it so much is it saved us from having to see James Pierce Jr. in a damn Eagles jersey or a damn Chiefs jersey. So I'm thankful for the Falcons. You'll never hear me say it again, but right now I'm thankful for the Falcons.
Word. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel you.
The only thing that's keeping me from putting this as an A-, because I've got it as a B+ right now. The only thing keeping it from an A- is the 2 safeties. And it's such a weird thing because I love both players.
Yeah,
I was very high on Bauman, however you say it. I was very, very high on him. And then Watts. I really like Watts as well.
Yeah.
But you took 2 safeties when you already are paying an established safety who played very well. Jesse Bates was very good. So that part confused me, and like we said, if we're just grading off of the draft picks, it would be an A because all the picks, in my opinion, were good players. But I do think they could have addressed interior D-line more. And maybe if Jalen Walker does play more of a traditional edge, they move one of their other guys in. I don't know. But I think they have some positional flexibility with the 2 first-round picks they took. So I'm actually really high on the draft on the 2 first-round picks. But, again, those safeties, it just confused me too much.
Yeah, and I do feel you. Like, it's nice that we don't have to see James Pierce become a really tremendous edge rusher.
Exactly.
I feel you, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just confused by the logic there. You know, you're man, if James Pierce Jr. was a first round pick in your mind, then I don't know. You might have to. I don't know. It's confusing. I'm conflicted about it just because of the whole, you know, just net loss type of thing. It sort of reminded me when the Saints traded up, you know, they gave up a first round pick to trade up to draft Marcus Davenport. And it was just kind of a disaster, if we're being honest.
Well, yeah, but Marcus Davenport was one of those, you guys hear me talk about it all the time. I hate the small school players in the first round. And he went to what? If I'm not mistaken, he was UTSA. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, and I know sometimes it works out, more times than not, you draft a no-name school or like a lower-tier school player in the first round, you're going on a whim and a prayer that these guys are going to be able to put up numbers they're putting up against lesser talent. So you got 2 SEC guys who have played the best of the best their entire collegiate career. And I think they're going to come in, and honestly – you took 2 of the highest, 2 of the most expensive positions, and now you're saving in the long run.
That's fair. You know, that's a good way to think about it because quarterback last year, pass rush this year, those are the 2, you know, those are the 2 most expensive positions.
You've got your 2 edges of the future if they work out, because obviously we don't know. Like, they could flop. I don't think they will. I'm very high on both of them, so I'm expecting good things from them. And now you've got your quarterback of the future on a 5-year deal. You've got 5 years on both your edges. I think that it could be very, very nasty.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is, if they had just given up, like, you know, if they gave up their 2nd round pick and then, I don't know, like a 3rd or a 4th round pick, something like that, the conversation for me would be completely different. I'm with you because I do love both of these guys. Like you said, I think that they're uber talented. And the Jalen Walker position versatility thing is a really great point for sure. So it's interesting. You know, I'm still pretty low on it just because of the draft capital that they gave up to do this. But like you said, these are talented players, so they could turn out to be well worth it. But we're nearing the end of our show. We really appreciate y'all for tuning in. So definitely stick around, give us a like or subscribe. Give us a follow because we'd really appreciate it. It's a way to support the show. And we'll see y'all next week for sure. Thank you to my co-host for making my job easier. But we'll see y'all next week for sure. We'll be talking about the NFL schedule that just came out. So we're definitely going to be talking that next week and how the Bucs are going to play their next regular season. But until then, we really appreciate y'all and go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.